Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again, and I wanted to give you a bit of an update on the Ice Spear Deadeye character. Deadeye Ice Spear self-cast character that I just kind of showed off a little bit in the starter video, and how the league experience has been going for me. For all the other starters, as far as I know, they've been going terrifically, and pretty much, as far as I can tell, a lot of builds are very strong right now, and it's going to be pretty hard to lose playing anything. At least to some decent extent, you should be able to get through a lot of atlas and mapping with just about any build. Things are just kind of strong at the moment. As for my character, this is a Deadeye Ice Spear, so I started out as a bow character up until about level 30, and then I tried my best to transition straight into Eye of Winter and Ice Spear. I've been using Eye of Winter for the clear portion of my skill, or my build, and then pretty much strictly Ice Spear for single target. Basically by about level 75 or so to 80, I was trying pretty hard to just become pure Ice Spear and get rid of Eye of Winter altogether, because Eye of Winter, it does okay, but it does have a bit of a delay to its good damage, which is right at the end when it starts to split projectiles. So you can see on like a ritual or really large packs, it does pretty good and it's got some chain to it, but in the end the build is really trying to be just pure Ice Spear. Ice Spear does a lot more damage when you haven't built into lots and lots of crit, because it just has a lot of crit to begin with. And I picked up a snake pit, so now my character has 2 chains, and then it's just up to kind of getting more projectiles, so a GMP, and for real good clear, you can also use a volley, and then your Ice Spear starts to turn into like a real spread out railgun type thing, but for the most part, just actually not using volley and just attacking with a single straight line. And Ice Spear does seem to hit really freaking hard at the moment, so even with my pretty humble setup, I'm probably at something like 1,000,000 plus DPS, and it's gone really well for the new league mechanic, the Arch Nemesis stuff. You have to fight basically a bit of single target, like probably 2 or 3 times a map, and that means that swapping from a AoE to a single target setup is pretty annoying unless you just straight up have both in your build already, which is what I was doing with the Eye of Winter. But I really don't like having to press 2 separate buttons. I'm very much, or always have been, a right-clicking type of guy. Just right-click, and that's my main skill. So having Eye of Winter on R has been a bit bothersome for me, but otherwise maybe you can make that work just fine, because it is more or less fine to have Eye of Winter in the setup as well for clear, but I have mostly just trying to be leaning into pure Ice Spear. And as you can see, the map clear is decent. We've got some chains. With the snake pit, Ice Spear will no longer pierce ever, so it's just got 2 chains, and you really want to be at range, at a pretty decent range for your Ice Spear to start doing its good damage and chaining. So that's its biggest problem. If you're going to just clear with it, any point blank damage might be a bit flimsy, since you're not using this second portion of the Ice Spear yet. And this is just a pretty typical map clear example where got to stop plenty and figure out what you're doing with the Arch Nemesis, and then hopefully blow it up. And it seems to be very dependent on what type of mob you pick, or what type of mob is in that Arch Nemesis statue, and that's how tough a mob is going to be. It's rarely about what modifiers, it's mostly about, is it a Katava Herald type dude, and if so, it becomes way thicker. So keep your eyes out for that sort of stuff. That's largely the challenge of the league mechanic thus far, as far as I can tell, but it does seem to be pretty rewarding. And as far as my character is concerned, I'm pretty happy with how it's gone. Like, it went from the bow build into the Ice Spear and Eye of Winter, and just performed really well since then. I'm still trying to figure out a few kinks, like mostly the mana. It is pretty uncomfortable just using a flask, and an enduring mana flask definitely won't be good enough, so I may have to like level up some clarity, get some mana regen, or use a different bigger mana flask, or might still try out Eldritch Battery, because this is a pretty heavy mana cost skill. I'm only on a 5 link, and I'm already at like, I don't know, 80, 90 mana or something like that, and we do want to cast pretty fast in the end, so it's going to drain a lot of mana quite quickly. But Just by the end of this video, or by the end of yesterday's stream, I did pick up the last Ascendancy, and that was the Mark Ascendancy. I think there's no real wrong move as far as our Ascendancies are concerned. You can pretty much take anything in any order, but I picked up the Mark Ascendancy last, and it actually feels really good to have it. It does help for some damage reduction, it does help with your spread on projectiles, and the rate at which you cast your mark. So pretty happy with how things are going. I can show you real quick how the character is built and what it looks like. So here is my character at this point, level 84, Deadeye, self-cast, Giga Chad. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm wearing all the new mystery box loot stuff, if you want to know micros and stuff. We are based around Ice Spear. Now, I mentioned in a tweet that you can basically get level 21 gems pretty cheap at the moment. So I had a level 21 gem lined up for 2 Chaos pretty much as soon as I could at level 72. It's quite a big power spike if you can get that for your builds, pretty much with any spell. So, you know, by all means, skip a bit of progression for just a couple of Chaos if that's how much your gems are going to cost. But things are going amazing before this anyway. So we've got that, and I finally got a 5-link, but up till that point I was using a 5-link for my Eye of Winter. So I had Eye of Winter in my 5-link and Ice Spear in a 4-link, just because Ice Spear didn't need any more for bossing. It was doing way too much damage, and it was completely fine. But eventually got the 5-link on the Ice Spear, and I'm currently running Cold Penetration, GMP, crit damage, and added cold at the moment. The colors are not really ideal, because I think I'd rather replace added cold for probably Spell Echo at this stage, to just get faster, better casts, and not quite sure what the 6th link would be at this stage just yet. Could be something like added cold, could be something like inspiration, just to try and ease the mana a bit, but I'll get there. We'll see when I actually get there. Otherwise, you can just check Path of Building, see what it tells you. Hypothermia is probably really good. Doubt you want to do Ellie Focus, because you do really want to be doing the freeze and the chill and all of that. The chest I've gone for is just a temple chest, I think. Yep, temple chest and a bit of spell suppress and just pure evasion. Nothing too special, didn't cost too much on the market. And the rest of the gear, like, I paid for each dagger about 2C or some shit. Basically, I was just looking for a big cast speed roll on each weapon, and the ideal weapon, I think, is probably still, like, you know, profane wands, so cast speed implicit wands, or you can get it. I think it doesn't really matter. So as long as the stuff is good, so you can have a really good staff, you can have a really good wand, scepter, daggers. They can all just be, you know, high rolled and amazing. Currently the daggers, though, with a bit of spell damage, bit of cold dispels, working out well. Picked up a snake pit like at level 75 or something to try it out for 8 chaos, and it does make the chains quite a bit nicer. So if you want to rely purely on Ice Spear, I think you do need a snake pit for the chains. Otherwise, I think you can be much more of a Winter Orb based character. Sorry, Eye of Winter based character if you're an occultist. But for a Deadeye, like, a lot of our Ascendancy doesn't really get much out of Eye of Winter. So the chain doesn't matter too much. It's just nice to have a bonus chain. The 2 additional proj doesn't do much for the Eye of Winter. And then the focal point sniper mark, it just gets a bit more damage. Whereas if you're doing the occultist version, the entire Ascendancy is basically helping your Eye of Winter. So I think if you're really enjoying the Eye of Winter, then you probably want to still be an occultist, whereas Deadeye, much heavier for just pure Ice Spear. Otherwise, got a bit of cast speed on my ring, and then a bit of cast speed with a +1 gem on the amulet. I think this thing only costs like a couple of chaos. You can find some pretty ridiculous cheap stuff early into a league. And then just a bit of spell suppress and nothing special happening there, and found these gloves. They're temple gloves with damage against chilled enemies, so I think that's the ideal type of glove, and then try and get some good new influence stuff on there. It seems like it can be pretty game changing. Like, I've seen some influence for Cold Leech, on gloves, which is what I would ideally have, I think. If I could get some cold leech from the gloves, I think that would be my best form of sustain. You can get some exposure on there as well, cold exposure, and then you would have no need for ever pressing Hydrosphere. Currently in my setup, I do use Hydrosphere for the exposure that it applies to enemies, and it's attached to Onslaught, Power Charge on crit, and crit. Crit's not really too necessary, and neither is Power Charge on crit. Neither is really Onslaught, but is what it is. Then I've got Zealotry as one of my reservations. I'm using Dash. I've got Clarity at level 1 or level 2. I was planning on getting a Vile Clarity to try and help with the mana, and I might still try that out. Otherwise, I have Bone Chill attached to Vortex and Arcane Surge, and it's on my left click. So pretty much all the time when I'm running around, I'm just dropping big vortexes that chill enemies and have their damage taken increased for cold. And it also keeps up Arcane Surge 100% of the time. And then Eye of Winter is still here. It's Eye of Winter, Cold Pen, Crit Strikes, and Added Cold. But I will probably be ditching this and just having a pure Ice Spear setup. And then I might try out like Whirling Blades for a bit of travel and movement speed and stuff. Or we could grab like a Lightning Warp. Have to wait and see. And then Decoy Totem has helped me out quite a lot. Do need a fair bit of strength on the build to get it in there. But it helps a lot to keep yourself at range and monsters away from you, so you know, try and use one of those as well. Then I'm using Herald of Ice and Sniper's Mark, of course, which is just amazing for this type of build. So my first 2 Ascendancy points went into the chain. I then went the 2 Proj. I then got the Tailwind, and then the Mark thing. Realistically, I don't think there's any right order, but having this earlier on would have been quite a bit nicer. So it's probably best to go for the Proj last, even though, you know, it's the biggest single target sort of feel increase. It's better off going for it last, I think. Either way, there's no right or wrong answer. So we've gone through, we've picked up the Frenzy node over here, so you sustain frenzies off enemies, single targets, bosses through that. And then just some mana reservation. Currently I've just got a lot of unreserved mana so I can get casts in, but my mana flask kind of sucks, and I'll see what I can do about that. Otherwise, I'm just now about to pick up a Jewel Socket, got some life and stuff. I do have some Energy Shield on kill and Ghost Dance, but I currently don't have fuck all Energy Shield. So the idea is going to be to get a craft from the Veiled Betrayal modifiers for percent life as Energy Shield. And at that point, you should have about, you know, 600 to 1,000 Energy Shield, something like that. And that's when Ghost Dance starts to do a bit more, and the Energy Shield on kill is a bit more of a defense buffer. Could also grab a shield, and I'll look into that. Otherwise, bit of Spell Suppress there, crit for the Spell Suppress, and then went up here. And I haven't gone through here yet, which I previously did, because I don't have any jewels, and as well as that, going through these crit nodes isn't that good. But once we do that and avoid all of this, this becomes pretty inefficient. So ultimately, we may end up doing a cluster jewel, like, you know, up here or down there, and respecking a bit. Or you could go through here and take some recoup. So far, this is what I'm working with, and it's been okay. I've also got the Frenzy while Shatter Mastery over here. So things are going well. Still a bit of progression to do, and I'll keep you updated if there needs to be more updates. As far as my Atlas passive thing, there's no real losing point here. You basically just invest heavily into some sort of league mechanics and stuff, and then you get plenty of returns out of it. What I'm personally doing is trying to get some expedition happening and some betrayal happening, and just fill those out for veiled modifiers and for ROG crafts and shit like that. So mostly just expedition, some betrayal. This is expedition, bit of betrayal there, and that's all I've done so far. And maps have been okay, and hardly any of this league mechanic has happened so far, but I haven't done much mapping. I'm only at, you know, 41 at the moment. Plenty more to go. Seems like a fun system. Arch Nemesis is pretty cool too, and overall I've been happy with the past couple days. Hope you have as well. I'll leave it there. So thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.